And I'm Lindsay Keith. We're going to spend some time talking about reopening the economy and what the new normal might look like. Here in the nation's capital, we're getting a bit of a mixed message so far.
That's right. The Senate got back to work this week, but guess what? The House is still waiting it out. And while Speaker Pelosi held back on returning to work, the top Republican in the House, Kevin McCarthy of California, and Congressman Rodney Davis of Illinois have come up with a plan to open back up the House of Representatives. Representative Rodney Davis will join us in just a minute to lay out the plan. It's a four-part plan that lays out how the House can get back in order. We're also going to talk about getting the nation as a whole back to business. We've got two physicians that are joining us, one of whom insists that nothing can really be done to stop the mounting death toll. That is amazing. So we might as well reopen the country, he insists. Is that a harsh view? Clearly, it's a lot that we have to discuss. But first, let's return to our top story. At first glance, you may think of the idea of reopening Congress falls in the why should I care after all? Because many of us believe that the government that governs best is the one that governs least. But here's the reality. If Congress isn't in session, guess what that means? It means no one's there to vote for more funding to take care of these small businesses, vote for the appropriations to get us the medical equipment for not just us, but our first responders, and to deal with all these other issues that are surrounding the coronavirus. That's why we're hearing speeches like this one.
Senate's back in session because we have important work to do for the nation. The Senate's going to be as smart and safe as we possibly can, and we are going to show up for work like the essential workers that we are. Our bosses are the American people, and they're counting on us to keep on serving.
All right, well, that was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell urging his colleagues to get back to business. Now is it time for the House to follow suit. And as we mentioned just a moment ago, there's a multi-part strategy to do just that. It includes modifying existing practices and structures and employing a phased return to the committees. We're going to go through it piece by piece in just a moment, and we have the perfect person to help talk us through it. Congressman Rodney Davis helped craft that very plan and joins us now. Welcome, Congressman.
Well, thank you, Sean, for having me on.
All right, so your plan has four phases to get the Congress back to doing business. It deals with committee structure and what committees should meet in terms of the ones that have priority for coronavirus, using the big rooms, a lot of this stuff. What has been the reaction so far from your colleagues in the majority in particular?
Well, unfortunately, the majority put out a very terse statement, and our plan was multiple pages, very well laid out. It was the four parts that you mentioned. We've already implemented some parts already by having social distancing and keeping votes open longer, having it in an orderly manner, cleaning voting machines in between a vote. But the majority, instead of looking at our plan that I thought was very bipartisan and very friendly to their needs, they decided to say that it just wasn't enough and that we ought to just do remote technology without taking into consideration the crawl, walk, run approach that we lay out in our plan that would protect us from cyber attacks and ensure that members of Congress could do their job effectively.
You know, you mentioned the cyber attacks. I think one of the things that you point out in there, because on its face, it seems pretty simple. Why doesn't Congress just meet by, Zoom or whatever that everyone else is using? What is the downside to doing that?
Well, number one, the House has its own network, and every month we have 1.6 billion cyber attack attempts. Again, that's 1.6 billion attempts at hacking the House network every single month. If we just decide to use technology that hasn't been vetted through our House processes, we run the risk of nefarious actors or nation states trying to disrupt what we do in Congress. Really, we've got to come up with an idea of what do we want Congress to look like. And frankly, our rules don't allow technology to be used for voting. We don't allow proxy voting, and that's something I'm glad we don't allow. We took it away when Republicans took over in 1995. And really, Sean, the way to get back to getting away from only trillion-dollar bills is to get our committees working again, which is why we suggested that.
Okay, so you're in the minority. You are the ranking member on the Administration Committee, which kind of oversees how Congress operates. What has been the reaction, though, of Democrats, Speaker Pelosi and others who are in the majority? If they don't like your plan, what's theirs?
Well, we're still waiting on it. I was kind of hoping their statement today would lay out their plan. Really, just a week ago, they told us we would be back in D.C. today. And then less than 24 hours, they changed their mind. So we anticipate coming back next Monday. But as the Democrat majority has told us before and has acted, we don't know. I firmly believe that they want to negotiate a package that is going to be negotiated at the leadership level. They want to propose a Democrat liberal wish list that's going to do things like take over our nation's election process. And they want to be able to bring everybody back to vote up or down on that bill. That's not how Congress should operate. If you want to watch how Congress operates, get our committees working again in a bipartisan way.
Congressman, do you think there's any concern? I mean, you've got 435 members of Congress flying back into town. They've been in their various states and districts. You've got to have staff, and I don't mean just your staff in particular, but like the Capitol Police, the stenographers, all of the support staff. Do you think that there's a concern that all of these people are getting put at risk, or are there enough procedures put in place to make sure that someone doesn't come back and infect everybody?
Well, there's always risk. Look, my wife is a nurse. She gets up every day to go to work and works at a facility that treats active COVID-19 patients. She comes home every night. She doesn't quarantine herself for 14 days just because she went to work. She follows the proper processes and procedures to mitigate her risk of getting the virus while she takes care, while she's at a facility that takes care of patients. Now, we showed a week and a half ago that we can bring members of Congress back, do it safely, through the air or through the vehicles or via train, via mass transit that's still going. And we were able to put together processes that are going to mitigate the risk of anybody of spreading the disease by having proper sanitation stations, proper social distancing measures, and the encouragement of wearing masks where necessary. But remember, Congress as we know it, Sean, when you and I first met years ago, is much different than when we left it on March 13th. Every single office is almost all teleworking. So there aren't the people around that would stop us from social distancing.
Congressman, before I let you go, just a quick yes or no. I know the House was offered these quick rapid COVID tests, and Speaker Pelosi turned them down. Was that a smart move?
No.
Right. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you for your leadership on this. I hope to see you back in Washington soon when it's safe, and stay safe back in your district.
Thank you. You too, Sean.
Thank you.
Well, Sean, he made some great points, especially why the House shouldn't vote remotely, bringing up the 1.6 billion cyber attacks they have every month. That's astonishing.
No, that's a point that I think it's so easy to say this should be done remotely. We've already heard about hacks from Zoom. Obviously, they can use a different network, but you're talking 1.6 billion cyber attacks. If someone were to get involved in that and manipulate the voting system or put comments inside, that's disastrous. So I think that the points that he made were really strong, and they're thinking about how to do this safely and smartly, and that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's right. All right, well, coming up, are we playing it too safe by trying to protect everyone from COVID-19? When we come back, we're going to pose that question to a couple physicians who have been on the front lines.
And later in the program, we see the perfect example of how the, quote, mainstream media is unable to police itself when it comes to journalism. Case in point, NBC, they talk a big game, except when it comes to trusting their own correspondent, looking at their own network. This is too juicy to miss. Stay tuned.